Of course, they say the best way to become a millionaire is to start by being a billionaire. That's where you can never go wrong, you know. Of course, you can invest your money and wait for it to work slowly, but that takes a bit more time.
We're going to give you better tips than that from an investment advisor in just a minute on how to make the most of your money, so stay tuned for it.
Welcome back. Now, when it comes to investing your hard-earned money, the average person tends to hesitate. That's because they usually associate the word investment with risky business.
Some might even think investments are only for those with good financial knowledge, or that investing in stocks means you'll have to keep track of share prices every day.
Well, our next guest, Keiden Chang, disagrees. He says these are just misconceptions. He teaches others how to invest and joins us this morning to debunk some long-held investment myths. Same time, he's going to give us some tips also as well. Good morning, Keiden. Thanks for joining us.
Morning.
Okay, so let's talk about these myths that you identified. The first one says investment is risky. You know, to sort of, I guess we all assume that you have to put some money and you have to be able to afford to lose what it is that you have put in as well. Is that a myth?
In fact, that's a myth. Let me give you an analogy. Most people, they will have this misconception that in order to make big bucks, you need to put in huge amount of money, which is a huge amount of risk. Now, let me give you an analogy. Assuming that three of us, we are serving online and we have identified a nice pair of shoes. And this nice pair of shoes costs $1,000, for example. And we are very interested, but we find it very, very expensive. So what we do is maybe a couple of months down the road, we don't wait for a discount. So if we, a couple of months later, if we buy the pair of shoes at $200 instead of $1,000, our risk is $200. In case, the shoe doesn't work out, it's totally not wearable. But having said that, when the discount is over, and we are able to sell the shoes, in fact, we are able to make $800. So the risk is $200, your return is $800. Now, on the other hand, if let's say you buy the pair of shoes at $800, so you risk losing the $800. But if you are able to sell it at $1,000, in fact, you realize that your margin is only $200.
Right.
So low risk, higher margin. And
but
with higher risk,
on an assumption there will be a sale. I mean,
yes,
and then when it comes to stocks, on an assumption that it will go down, I suppose.
Yeah. So in fact, for all sort of business, there's always a business cycle, and sales always come. The only problem we doesn't know is we do not know when. So if you look at, let's say a couple of years ago, stock on sale, in fact, it's during the economic crisis in 2008 and 2009. Everything is almost like half price.
Yeah, but there's a reason why things go on sale. Sometimes it's because they're on their way to going out of business, maybe, or I mean, there's a reason why the share prices go from $5 to $2. You're thinking, should I buy now? And then what if it goes to $1 next? Then what do you do?
Okay. So you see, the share price, we need to appreciate from an investor perspective that the share price has got nothing to do with the value of the company in the short term. Now, let me give you an example. Now, during the point of time when it's 2008 or 2009, if you visit any McDonald's restaurants or Starbucks cafe and so on, you realize there's still a huge amount of crowd. Yeah, but having said that, on the share price, it's selling at half price or even a fraction of it. Now, if you look at Starbucks right now, the share price is maybe around US $70. And during that time, you're selling at $10. But the business was still doing well. So can you imagine that the company still provide value, is doing well, but the share price is selling like 1/7 of the share price, which is offering now.
So I suppose when you want to invest in stocks, you want to identify that business cycle where I suppose there's a good bargain and, the prices are relatively low, and then you jump in then?
Yes, in a certain way. So the key, in fact, is to identify a good business. That's point number one.
The fundamentals.
The fundamentals. The second one is to evaluate the worth of the companies. That means how much the stock is worth. Yeah, and then the rest is just a pure waiting game.
So look at the company itself and see what it is worth, and whether you feel that it's a company that can stay on for long term, will eventually make business or make money in that sense. Which means forget about the share price now. Just don't worry about looking at it every week.
You're absolutely right. In fact, the last thing we want to do is, in fact, to look at the share price. Yeah, looking at share price should be the last thing that we're going to do. Yeah, so we should spend most of our time trying to analyze the performance of the company. Yeah. That should be the focus for all investors.
All of us, any layman, I can just go online, look at their annual report, look through their website, and be able to evaluate the company effectively?
No, not really. Because if let's say I'm a newbie, I have no investment experience or financial experience. In fact, you need to really learn something about accounting to understand more about companies before you really jump in. The key is really to get an education.
So when you are investing and you want to find the worth of the company or the value, what are the key things that you look out for?
Okay. So if let's say I want to value a company, I can divide into a couple of steps. Yeah, the first step I call it A, which stands for assess the company. Now, if you want to assess a company, there are two categories. The first category is to look at the qualitative part. That means how does the revenue works, what are the things that they sell. For example, McDonald's, they sell burgers, they make money through rental and so on. The other one, which is to look at the numbers, okay, which is why if a newbie investor really need to understand a bit of accounting terms. Now, once you assess the company, you know there's a great company, it's going to be here for the next 10 years. The next one is to value it, okay, to know how much it's worth. So, for example, if let's say we value it, let's say the company Coach, which sells handbag, okay, let's say we value it as in one stock is worth $50.
Okay.
And right now, let's say it's selling at 60. So what do? We just wait. Yeah. So how long do we need to wait? We wait for bargain, and that usually takes place during bad times. Economic crisis, or it could be a short-term problems, or it could be some form of scandals, or it could be some form of bad news.
And I guess if the company keeps on doing well, getting higher and higher, you just say, well, sorry, I missed the boat. Let me look at some other company.
Yes, in fact, that's what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, the rule of thumb? People say that if you want to make big bucks, you have to invest big bucks as well. I mean, is that true? Or can I start something, with, I don't know, like $2,000 and invest and still expect high return?
There's a very huge possibility. Let me give you an example. If let's say any investor want to start, in fact, around 2,000 or 3,000 is more than enough. And of course, it varies according to the companies that you're looking up for. Let me give you an example of a local company, SBS Transit. Now, as of yesterday, is selling at probably around $1.30. And in the Singapore context, you need to buy a minimum of 100 shares, which is one lot. So 1,000 multiplied by 130 will be 1,003.
Right.
So in fact, you can be a minor shareholder just by using around 2,000, 3,000. And in the US context, is you can buy one share. So if Coach is $50, you can just spend $50.
Okay.
Yeah. So in fact, it's not really, shouldn't be expecting like 10,000 or 100,000. Yeah. In fact, a couple of thousand will do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends also on what you're hoping to achieve. What is your end goal?
Yes, yes.
So should that be worked out before you even start investing?
Yeah, in fact, you're absolutely right. One of the key things that before we start investing, in fact, is to know our financial objective. Yeah, so then you reverse engineer, work backwards. So let's say you want to retire, as an example. Let's say you want to retire by 50. Okay, so from now until 50, maybe it's 20 years, let's say. So within these 20 years, we need to ask ourselves, how much savings do we have? How are we going to allocate our salary, our savings, such that at the end of 20 years, we're going to achieve our financial objective. So that should be the first thing, even before we talk about whether it's investing in stocks or properties and so on.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
that's important.
So we brought up a few myths that you help us to bust, but what are the guiding rules that you go by? I mean, from what you're saying, I gather that, patience would be a key thing as well.
Or patience is one of the utmost important thing. Yeah.
How do you judge, or what
are
the
your top
guiding
3
principles
rules
that
if you had to basically
follow?
before you go into any investment? What are some of the rules you abide by?
Okay, the first rule, in fact, is never lose money. That's the most important rule. Now, so why is that so? Majority of the investors, when they invest, their rule is, in fact, to constantly make money. So what's the difference between the mindset of not losing money and the mindset of always make money? Now, let me give you an example. So if let's say all of us, we have a savings of $100 now. So if we lose $50, we are losing 50%.
Correct.
Okay. But in order for us to make back the original amount, you require us to make back 100%. So you realize that it's easier to lose money, but it's difficult to make money. Which is why the first rule, in fact, is never lose money.
So do I extrapolate from that you're saying when you make a certain amount of gain, you should just come out instead of staying in there for too long because you would risk yourself losing that capital gain that you got?
Yeah, that will depend on the company you're looking at and your financial objective. Yeah, in fact, one of the, another extra rule, in fact, is really to hold on to the company as long as possible. Yeah, if it's a great company. Let me give you an example. Let's say Coca-Cola. In the entire world, there's only one that sells Coca-Cola, other than one which is Pepsi. So if let's say I'm an investor myself, Coca-Cola will be a company that I will absolutely have no intention to sell, even there's a capital gain.
Right.
Because in addition to the capital gain, we are gaining other things. For example, you're talking about dividends.
I see.
Okay, so this is the first rule. The second rule, in fact, is to, before you invest, you really need to understand what you're doing. Whether is it properties, whether is it wine or anything. So why is that so? Because the moment you know what you're doing, all of us, we can in fact sleep comfortably. And that's very important. Because if we don't, we will make irrational decisions like selling or...
So just understand your product at least, right?
Exactly.
Okay, what's the last one?
Yeah, the last one, in fact, is to look for companies that has a durable competitive advantage. Now, what do I mean by durable competitive advantage? For example, companies with big brand names. So if you want to buy a burger, the first thing that comes to mind is McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah, you want to buy, let's say, coffee, Starbucks would be one. Yeah, so you want a company that really...
That's
is doing now,
right.
and is going to be doing well for the next couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are 3 key tips.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Thanks
thank
a lot,
you so
Keiden
much,
there.
Keiden.
Keiden Chia giving us some tips on how you can grow your wealth. Of course, like he said, a lot of it is find out, be aware on your own, read up, understand what it is you're doing before you go into any investment. Because once you put money down, you got to be sure about what you're doing before you start.
So do a bit of homework and research. Anyway.